वालेकुम सलाम।
பேரன்னை அங்கே பேசுங்க.
இல்ல அவங்களுக்கு Bhuva Shishu.
Is it audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So I'll go from the start. Okay, so I just started like how to access NCERTs. Okay, so most of the NCERT. Huh? Okay, okay. So most of the NCERTs will be available for free online. So you can just go to this ncert.nic.in. Okay, I hope you just saw how I open this. So just select the class. So which class you want? Today's class is 7th standard. So in the subject, the broader classification will be social science, something like that, history, geography. So here you select social science, history, geography, polity, sociology, economics, all these will come under social science. Okay. Then here you go everything. Okay, in the R pass history. Okay, R pass 1 is 6th standard, R pass 2 is 7th standard. Okay. So our environment. Okay. So just select and just click go. Okay. And you will have this. Okay. So you can open individually. Okay. Okay. So with respect to environment, living and non-living, so generally we classify as man-made and natural. Natural further we classify as living and non-living, or biotic and abiotic. Okay. Biotic further we classify as living and dead. So when it comes to environment, living is different from dead. Sorry, non-living is different from dead, because non-living includes air, water, and everything that is very important for sustaining life. Okay, and those will not be decomposed. Okay, for example, you cannot decompose air. Okay, air has different components, so which can be degraded or purified or something like that, but decomposition will not occur. But on the dead, decomposition will occur. Okay, because dead was something that was living, and living nave vande it is organic. Okay, organic na anything that moves from simple to complex, the process will happen. Okay, for example, simple carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight gives carbohydrates. So compared to carbon dioxide and water, carbohydrates, it is a complex molecule. Compared to nitrogen, ammonia is complex. Compared to ammonia, protein is complex. Compared to plant protein, animal protein is complex. Okay, so they are abiotic components. Okay, protein is an abiotic component, but it is necessary for sustaining the life. Okay, so these are some things you have to see. Okay, make sure your mic is unmuted. Okay, it's muted, sorry. So that is why, so biotic components, it is everything that is living and dead is biotic, and abiotic is non-living components. Okay, and the interaction between abiotic and biotic components is necessary for sustaining the ecosystem. Okay. Okay, so natural environment, so so the biosphere here it is. So those who have attended my classes would have seen that slide. So lithosphere, atmosphere, hydrosphere. So the confluence is biosphere. Okay, so biosphere is the living component, which includes atmosphere, which is the air component, hydrosphere, which is the water component, and the lithosphere, which is the land component. Okay, so in the moonume irukkanum. Okay, if any one thing is missing, so then it is very hard for life to sustain. Okay, or the complex life to sustain. Okay. Even you take hydrosphere, majority component is water, but it will also have atmosphere in dissolved form. Okay, so minerals of lithosphere. You take atmosphere, you need dust and water vapor for rainfall to form, which is very essential component for living form. So lithosphere, you take soil, you will have soil pores which will be filled with air, soil moisture which is required for plants to grow. Okay, so all these components form the biosphere. Okay, so lithosphere is the solid crust and it is made up of rocks, minerals and everything. Okay, so in the seventh NCERT you might think it is like seventh standard book la enna kekkalam. So but if you see the previous 14-year question paper, seventh NCERT irundha 3 question kittirukku. Okay, so it is very important. So every NCERT is very important, and the most important thing is like you have a lot of basic compounds, basic questions that are coming from this. Okay, or any single question you take. So adala vandu pathina you will have the statement 1, statement 2, statement 3. Some of the statements might also come from this. Okay, so this is one of the easiest books to study. So maximum 1 day. Okay, so all the NCERT you take maximum 2 months. Okay, and NCERT is the foundation of civil services. Okay, so hydrosphere includes river, lakes, seas, oceans, soil moisture, atmosphere moisture, underground water, everything. Okay, and 11th NCERT la vandu, so you will have this order of hydrosphere. So edilla 11th physical environment nu or geography book irukku. Okay, so most of the thing water is found in oceans. So next comes fresh water, and even in fresh water most of the water is in the form of salt and glaciers.
photo எடுக்கிறேன். நீங்க photo எடுக்கலாம் தலை கூட வர மாட்டேன். நீ மாறிட்டாங்க அத்தனை சீப் இது எத்த மாறிக்கும். 3 நாள் கழிச்சு நீ தான்.
Okay, please make sure your mic is always muted. Okay, so next comes ecosystem. So ecosystem is nothing but it is formed by the interaction between the living organisms and the physical and chemical factors. So basically biotic and abiotic factors. Okay, so abiotic factors la what all comes is, so like I told you, minerals, water, temperature and everything. Okay, and this temperature, water availability and minerals, it is necessary for the life process, because life starts with or whatever form. Okay, so you take animals and everything, it always starts with something called primary productivity. That primary productivity comes from sunlight. Okay, so where you have excess of sunlight along with water, so you will have very diverse ecosystem starting from plants. When plant diversity is very high, so you will have the follow up animal diversity. Okay, if flora or diversity is high, you will have a very high fauna diversity. Okay, in a plants learned you will have primary producers. So plants are producers. From plants you will have primary consumers, which are generally we use the term herbivores. Okay, primary consumer learned you have secondary consumer, which we always say as carnivores. Okay, so nature, according to nature, there are only producers and consumers. Okay, so for our understanding we use the term herbivores, carnivores and everything. Okay, so according to nature, producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, quaternary consumer, that's all. Okay, and decomposers. Okay, so ecosystem, so like we said, it is an interaction between living and non-living organisms. Okay, so this living organisms, okay, so that is determined by the abiotic factors. So what are the abiotic factors? Temperature and rainfall. Okay, this different combinations of temperature and rainfall, okay, determines what is the type of ecosystem. For example, high temperature, high rainfall na tropical forest. Okay, high temperature, low rainfall na desert. Moderate temperature, moderate rainfall na deciduous forest. Okay, moderate temperature but very low, low rainfall, but and the rainfall or a season is very small, like 3 to 4 months. You have grasslands. Okay, high rainfall, but water it is always present in the soil. Okay, it will not totally drain. Soil water locked irukna, you have some vegetation, some kind of vegetation or swampy vegetation or marshlands. So mostly on the boundaries of lakes, okay, or any depression where water from the side always keeps on coming. Okay, so you have something called swamps and marshes. So Palikarnai, you use the term marsh. Mangrove forest, Pichavaram, swamps. Okay, so swamp marsh both come under the category called wetlands. Okay, so wetlands அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவோம், சதுப்பு நில காடுகள்னு சொல்லுவோம். ஓகேங்களா? So if it has grasses, we use the term marsh. Remember, Palikarnai marshland. Okay, you will only find grasses. But Pichavaram is mangroves. Okay, so mangroves are swamp. Okay, swamp marsh. Okay. So this, if you want to see, it's so basically some simple stories would have been given, and always படிக்கும்போது make sure you try to solve this exercise also. So okay, இதெல்லாம் basic, it will give you a basic understanding. Okay, so we'll go to the second chapter. Deciduous forest. So deciduous forest, you have another term called monsoonal forest. Okay, so the dominant vegetation in India is deciduous forest. Okay, okay. So inside our earth, okay, so generally when it comes to environment, we always focus on what is outside the lithosphere. Okay, so but lithosphere, it is a part of earth. Okay, so we must know what is inside the earth. So what is inside the earth in an environmental point of view, it is not very important, except for volcanoes and earthquakes. Okay, so but let's see, it's given in NCERTs. Okay, so in the so earth is made up of these three things: crust, mantle, core. Crust is the outer layer, which is very thinner compared to the other areas. Mantle on the, so second layer, the volume of mantle is highest. Okay, but the weight of core is highest. So which has biggest volume na mantle, but edu has biggest weight na core. Okay, so core oda weight and 84% of Earth's total weight is core. Okay, so why core being the smallest has a bigger weight? So when the earth was formed, it was just a molten ball of gases. Okay, and it had like different components. Okay, when something is in liquid, okay, so what will happen? So differentiation or process heavier இருக்கதெல்லாம் settle ஆக ஆரம்பிக்கும். So bottom வந்து heavy, so middle வந்து moderate weight, lighter will be floating. Densest வந்து settle ஆகும். இப்போ tumblerல it will settle at the bottom in a flask. But ஒரு பால்க்கு, ஒரு ஸ்பியருக்கு வந்து பாட்டம்ங்கிறது சென்டர். ஏன்னா எல்லா பாயிண்ட்லையும் merges towards the center. So when it was in liquid form, the heavier metals sunk to the center. Okay, so core most of the materials knife layer nu solluvom, because it has nickel and iron, NiFe. Okay, so nickel and iron. Okay, so mantle still less dense layer, adukku mela crust vandu pathina very least dense layer. Okay, so crust la outer crust, inner crust appdin solluvom. Mantle upper mantle, lower mantle. Core vandu outer core, inner core. Okay, crust outermost layer is called Cl layer, silica and alumina. It is the very lightest layer. Okay, and since it is outer, that started cooling faster. Okay, so a simple example, bonda. Okay, look uralakilangu bonda or the aloo bonda, potato bonda. Okay, outer la cool இருக்கும், but sometimes வெளியே கூலா இருக்குன்னு எடுத்து சாப்பிட்டோம்னா உள்ள ரொம்ப ஹாட்டா இருக்கும், because the exposed area cools faster. So that is why the crust is solid, but inner area is still liquid, because it still has the heat that was present during the formation of earth. So for that we use some term called primordial heat. Okay, so primordial enanga adha solid liquid. Okay, so the solid ah irukkarukana reason vera, that is because of pressure. Okay, so because of pressure, even core, inner core is liquid, outer core is solid. Okay, so other than the difference of inner core liquid, outer core solid. மாத்தி சொல்லணும். Okay, fine. One core is solid and other core is liquid. Okay, so that is the thing. அதை எதுக்கும் செக் பண்ணிக்கங்க. Okay, so so the heat that is still trapped inside is called primordial heat. Okay, so wherever you find this term primordial, okay, so it means that is something that was present during the formation of Earth. So sometimes you will find something called primordial atmosphere. Okay, so அந்த மாதிரி. Okay, so now what are all the forces that that is inside the Earth determine the surface of Earth அப்படின்னு பார்த்தோம்னா, so basically with respect to direct mineral supply அப்படின்னு பார்த்தோம்னா, so maximum the upper layer of mantle இருந்து due to volcanic explosion sometimes the lava may come to the surface. Okay, so in உள்ள இருக்கும்போது it's called magma. When it comes to the surface it is called lava. Okay, so the Deccan Plateau, so or we what we call as Deccan traps, so it was found because of that. Okay, so that brings a lot of minerals. Okay, after disintegration, so it forms black soil. Okay, so which has its own set of vegetation. Okay, so and apart from that, lot of islands are found, all those things. Okay, so core will it come to the surface? No, it cannot come. Okay, because it is so deep. Okay, and most of the volcanic explosions, so it is maximum and the magma is like 100 to 150 200 kilometers. Okay, so there's a layer called asthenosphere. And beyond that, so maybe some places there might be release of energy which will cause earthquakes. That's all. Okay, apart from that, we don't have any direct except for the magnetosphere. Okay, so the magnetosphere exists because of the rotation of the core. If the core doesn't rotate, okay, so it's simply like a dynamo. So when a dynamo, which is magnet, which rotates, it produces electricity or a concurrent magnetic field. Okay, so now since the core has nickel and iron, since they are ferromagnetic materials, and since they are rotating, it produces the magnetosphere. So is magnetosphere very important? Yes. Okay, because of the magnetosphere, Earth has a magnetic field which protects us from the solar storms. Okay, sun emits a lot of energy which come to the Earth as solar storms, and because of the magnetic field around the Earth, we are protected. Okay, suppose if the solar storms are so powerful and we do not have a magnetic field, our atmosphere will be removed. So one reason why moon does not have an atmosphere is that, and we had a very bigger atmosphere. Okay, and the atmosphere that was outside the domain of the magnetic field, and the magnetic field வெளியே இருந்த atmosphere, it was removed by the solar storms. Okay, and the solar storms would reach எது வரைக்கும்னா till the first 4 planets. Okay, beyond that it reaches very less. So that is why Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus and Neptune have a very big atmosphere and they are called gaseous planets. So first 4 planets, it is very hard to resist the solar storm. Okay, so most of our atmosphere was removed, so we are called terrestrial planets. Okay, so this obviously you will know. So the crust is made up of so we generally call so crust and upper part of the mantle as lithosphere. Okay, and lithosphere is not a continuous layer, it is broken into multiple layers. Everything we call as slabs, and if the slabs, larger part of the slab is land, we call it continental plate. If it is underwater, oceanic plate. They move towards each other or move away from each other. So when they move towards each other, so they converge ஆகிற இடத்துல, so heavier plate sinks or destruction happens. We use the term destructive margins. And when they move away from each other, so there's a gap, the magma comes and fills the gap, so new plate is created, so constructive margin. Okay, so diverging plate or constructive margin. Apart from that, we have a special plate called California plate, where the plate neither moves towards each other or moves away from each other, so they slide past one another. So that is called transient boundary. Okay, so like you said, the volume 84% of the mantle and only 50% of the volume is core. Okay, and coming to rocks, so we have classified rocks into 3 types. Okay, so basically rocks are minerals, and we don't have one particular. For example, you take a rock, it is made up of multiple minerals, multiple compounds. Or rock, it will not have only one mineral. Okay, even you take the purest form, it will be contaminated. There is no 100% pure. Okay, so for example, even if you take this building and crush it, you will get 1 to 2 grams of gold or diamond. But why we don't use it is because it is not profitable. Okay, so anything you can say it as ore. Okay, only when it is extracted in profitable measures. Okay, so even if we screen 8 lakh people, we will get 1 kilo of uranium, fissile uranium. But screening 8 lakh people is very costlier than the uranium. Okay, so it is not possible. Okay, and these rocks are classified as igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. So igneous, the word comes from the word agnes, which means fire. So they are also called primary rocks. Okay, and the igneous rocks so why they are called primary rocks? Because they are first to be formed. So obviously we have seen the earth is made up of molten lava, was made up of molten lava when it came out from the sun, and it cooled. So basically when the magma is cooled and forms a rock, it is called igneous rock. Okay, and igneous rock is of 2 types further. If it cools outside the surface, it is called extrusive rock. If it cools inside the surface, it's called intrusive rock. So which will be stronger, extrusive or intrusive rock? வெளியே கூலானா, if it cools outside, rate of cooling will be faster. If the rate of cooling is faster, grain size will be smaller. Smaller grains na weaker rocks. Okay. இப்போ normally you melt silica and let it cool slower. It still forms silica, kind of stronger. But if you cool it faster, it forms glass, which is weaker. Glass easy orange. Okay. So intrusive rocks are stronger. So simply on the extrusive rocks form basalt, intrusive rocks form granite. Okay. So inside the, because basically cool stronger. Biryani takes longer time. It is most tasty. Okay. Okay. So extrusive rocks mostly, so we have seen it forms weaker rocks. Intrusive, it forms stronger rocks like granite. Okay. So you might ask, sometimes the granite hills are outside. So because of erosion, it might have formed inside. But granite being the stronger rock, surrounding the weaker rocks, so which might have eroded. Granite being a stronger rock, it would have still sustained. Okay, stronger. And next comes sedimentary rocks. And like I told you, the granite rocks, the area surrounding it will be eroded. When erosion happens, so obviously you have sediments. Okay. So when erosion happens, it is eroded to sediments. Okay. And sediments will not be carried forever. Air, water, until it has its sufficient kinetic energy, it will carry the sediments. Some place it will slow down. When it slows down, it deposits the sediments. So when the sediments start accumulating, after one time, someone's mic is on. Please do check. Okay. So the sediments accumulate and they themselves form a rock. Romba simple. So dust on the side of the room or something. After sometimes it will, and the simple dust it will form something thick. You have to press and clean. Okay. Remember, something is subjected to years and years of sedimentation. So obviously those will form rocks. And the process is called lithification. Okay, the process by which sediments combine to form rocks is called lithification. Okay, and those rocks are called sedimentary rocks. Okay, and most of the fossil fuels or fossil rocks are sedimentary rocks. If you go to Rajasthan, so most of the palaces will be formed of will be made by sedimentary rocks. The pink stone, yellow stone, allame. The same thing you go to Kerala, Maharashtra. And the rocks, fort walls, it will be made up of igneous rocks. Okay, so the holes are complete. Okay, so the why you have so much of holes in rocks na? Because it is magma flow. Okay, and when magma is like so hard, so when it flows, it also traps air in it. By the time it cools, because of that, so most of the rocks you will be like that. Okay, now if the sedimentary rocks is subjected to more heat and pressure, it will form something called metamorphic rock. So sedimentary rocks, even igneous rocks can become metamorphic rocks if it is subjected to high heat and pressure. So morph now a change. Okay, so metamorphic now there is a change in the physical or chemical state. Okay, it may be due to heat or it may be due to pressure or due to both. Surface la vandadukku appuram heat aanunga avasiyam illa, but adukku mela edha deposit ana it may be subject to pressure changes. Okay, or if it is covered by any other rocks, okay, and it is closer to some magma chamber, heat can build up. Okay, so that can also happen. So those are called metamorphic rocks. Romba simple ana metamorphic rock is diamond. So carbon. So one form of metamorphism. So low heat and low pressure na graphite. High heat and high pressure is diamond. Granite வந்து gneiss அப்படின்னு, GNEISS, gneiss அப்படின்னு it will form. Then there's another thing called schist, SCHIST. Schist will be formed. That is also a metamorphic rock. Calcium deposits. Okay, calcium turning into limestone or marble. So further heat and pressure on the marble. So இதெல்லாமே metamorphic rocks. Okay, so metamorphic rocks when further subjected to heat and pressure can also form metamorphic rocks. Further sedimentary rocks, metamorphic rocks form. Igneous rocks, metamorphic rocks form. Or if a sedimentary rock is formed, if it is eroded, it can form another sedimentary rocks. Okay, so metamorphic rock can also be eroded and form sedimentary rocks. Okay, so rock cycle na you should not imagine a perfect circle. So and the intermediate spokes mari, this can also form this and that and everything. Okay, so it is all because of this tectonic movements. Okay, so and what is the situation during that time? So institute la kodukra material adu poi NCERT இப்போதைக்கு படிங்க. Okay, and you see the previous year question papers also. Okay, so previous year question paper பார்த்தாவே, so what type of questions they are asking nu theriyum. Okay, so most of your static questions will be very basic. That knowledge is you will get from NCERT or geography, the environment or geography parts in your NCERTs. So apart from that, extra abdina, so that will be very basic. The pollution, and the act, legislations, protocols, global environmental agreements. So all that you have to study from current affairs. Okay, so this is the rock cycle. Okay, sediment, sedimentary rocks, metamorphic rocks, igneous rocks. So just go through this. Okay, and also as usual go through the exercise part. Okay, so changing environment. So we are coming to basically lithosphere. Okay, so lithosphere, there are two types of forces acting on it: exogenic and endogenic forces. So like I told you, the inner part of the earth is not always solid. So the liquid part in asthenosphere, there is something called convectional current mechanism. So it keeps on moving. So that movement keeps on pushing the lithospheric plates or slabs towards each other and away from each other. Okay, so as a result, you have continental plate movement, which leads to something called mountain building or fault plains, rift valleys in the mari. Okay, fold mountains. Okay, so mountain building due to continental fold mountains. Okay, or block mountains. Okay, and they can be sudden also, slower. So sudden earthquake. Okay, sudden இருக்கலாம், slow இருக்கலாம். Okay, so generally mountain building is a very slow process. Okay, and exogenic forces, so which are outside. Okay, and so main reason or the main cause of exogenic forces is gravity and sun. Okay, in the exogenic forces, so here it has given erosional and deposition. Apart from that, there is something called mass wasting. Okay, and apart from that, there is something called weathering. So weathering, mass wasting, agents of erosion. So in the agents of erosion, the river, wind, sea waves, and glaciers. So apart from that, you also have underground water. Okay, in the limestone caves. So what is the difference between these forces and weathering and mass wasting? Now, mass wasting happens only under the influence of gravity. Okay, so slide, fall, rock flow, mud flow, all those. And in this river, wind, sea waves and case, erosion, transportation, deposition, மூணுமே involved. But weathering la, it is only disintegration. There is no transportation. Okay, so the difference between disintegration and decomposition is physical, decomposition is chemical. Okay, carbohydrates to carbon dioxide and water na, it is decomposition. It's a chemical process. Okay, but in the table on the breakdown ஆகுறது அப்படின்னா, so it is a physical disintegration or physical change. Okay, so plastic disintegrates but it does not decompose. That is why we have microplastics. Okay, so you have volcano. So volcano, obviously we know it's a gap through the surface or crust through which the magma comes out. So we have something called focus, epicenter. Focus is the place where earthquake originates. Epicenter is the equivalent point on the surface of Earth where we have the maximum damage. Okay, so whenever there is an earthquake, there are two types of waves: surface waves and body waves. So body waves travel from the focus to the surface of Earth. They do not cause any damage. They are classified as primary waves and secondary waves. So primary waves in the sense they reach the surface of Earth first. So they are primary waves. Secondary waves reach next. These do not cause any damage. But when this primary waves and secondary waves reach the surface, they interact with the surface, rocks element. They causes changes to the surface. Okay, like loosening of the soil, partial movement of land. Okay, if in the classroom, in the first row rate, second row rate, third row rate. So when everything is moving at a constant rate, building can the problem. Okay, but இது மட்டும் எப்படி மூவ் ஆகுது அப்படின்னா, so ஒவ்வொரு part of the building will be subjected to different stresses. So that will lead to the collapse. Okay, so that waves produced on the surface are called surface waves. So we call them as love waves and relic waves. Okay, so these are something with respect to disaster management. Then you have weathering, erosion. Okay, mass wasting. So adukaprom, so rivers, river erosion, fluvial erosion. So in the weathering and mass wasting, okay, so adula kuripa those areas. So 11th NCERT book la vandu introduction to physical fundamentals of physical environment. So adula innum clear cut irukum. So this you can just learn for updating your basics. So next, atmosphere. So again, so basically whatever you are seeing here in the changing 3rd, 4th and 5th chapter, so மூணுமே வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா elaborate கொடுத்ததான் your 11th NCERT. ஓகேங்களா? So that is the thing. So why it is important to start from the basics is, for example, some of us may not have a school or college background in polity or sociology or something. So when you start with school books, it is very easy. So as soon as you start with 11th constitution at work start பண்ணீங்கன்னா ஒண்ணுமே புரியாது if you don't have a background. Okay. Or something நம்ம வந்து we just take it in literal sense, we don't understand the concept or underlying concept behind that. Okay, so அதனால it is better to start from 6th standard. Okay, so அப்பதான் நமக்கு அந்த depth of understanding ஈஸியா இருக்கும். Okay, so when the depth of understanding is good, we will use simple terms. நான் நடத்துறது ரொம்ப காம்ப்ளெக்ஸா ஃபுல்லா டெக்னிக்கல் டேர்ம்ஸா யூஸ் பண்றேன் அப்படின்னா வந்து யாருக்குமே புரியாது. இப்போ திடீர்னு ஒருத்தர் குவாண்டம் மெக்கானிக்ஸ்ல தியரி ஆஃப் ரிலேட்டிவிட்டி படிச்சுட்டு வந்தாரு அப்படின்னா சும்மா தேர் கிவிங் ஒன் புக் டு மீ, ஐ ஸ்டடி இட் without much understanding. So whatever I come and say, you will not understand. ஏன்னா அது உங்களுக்கு பாதி புரிஞ்சுதுன்னா நீங்க எனக்கு கொஸ்டின் கேட்டீங்கன்னா எனக்கும் பதில் சொல்ல தெரியாது. பட் அது நல்ல ஸோ குவாண்டம் மெக்கானிக்ஸ் ஆர் தியரி ஆஃப் ரிலேட்டிவிட்டி நமக்கு தெரிஞ்சது ஐன்ஸ்டீன் தான். அவர் சொன்னாரா இல்லையான்னு தெரியல, பட் அவர் சொன்ன அந்த ஒரு காமனான இதுங்களா 50 kg சிலிண்டரும் 50 kg விமனும் விச் இஸ் ஈஸியர், அதர் ரிலேட்டிவிட்டி ரெண்டுமே 50 kg தான், பட் சம்திங் இஸ் ஈஸியர் அப்படின்னு மாதிரி ஒன்று சொல்லுவாங்களே. அவர் நமக்கு சொல்ற மாதிரி நமக்கு ஒரு பார்க்ல 1 minute நிக்கிறதுக்கும் நடு ரோட்ல ஹார்ன்லாம் இருக்கிற இடத்துல ஒரு ஹாட் டேல செப்பலோ ஷூவோ இல்லாமல் 1 minute நிக்கிறதுக்கும் வித்தியாசம் இருக்குல்ல. ஸோ தட் இஸ் த டிஃப்ரென்ஸ். ஓகே, ஸோ உங்களுக்கு நல்லா புரிஞ்சால் தான் அதை ஈஸியாக நீங்கள் எக்ஸ்பிரஸ் பண்ண முடியும். ஓகே, அண்ட் ரிமெம்பர் UPSC exam is about expressing what you know. Okay, I may know everything, but if I don't know how to write, ரொம்ப காம்ப்ளெக்ஸா நிறைய ஜார்கன்லாம் போட்டு எழுதுன்னா it is useless. Because UPSC is actually if they need like people with so technical knowledge, straighter they'll go to universities for recruiting. They need people who can communicate in a very to common people, very simple. Okay, so that is why you will not know who corrects your paper, and if you are able, if your answer is satisfying for any person who corrects your paper, you are clear. Okay, so whenever you write something polity or sociology, okay, so the person who corrects your paper may have a left-wing ideology, right-wing ideology, may have a capitalistic leaning or a socialistic leaning. Okay, but if you are able to satisfy any person, because that is a society. If 1,000 people from a same a village come to you to a same problem, some might be a pacifist, problem solve ஆனா போதுன்னு இருப்பாங்க. Some might come there to assert their authority, some might come there to threaten. You must deal with everyone in a democratic manner. Okay, small police irukangana, you cannot send the police, right? So that is what the society expects from you, or the government expects from you. Okay, and composition of the atmosphere, so mostly we'll have a majority is nitrogen. So even when we breathe, so most of the nitrogen goes in. Luckily nitrogen is in elemental form is unreactive. Okay, so whatever goes in, it comes out. Even if it stays in our body, it just accumulates at the joints in the nattai edukumbod, so the knuckle thing we do. Okay, so that is nothing but nitrogen popping. Okay, so it comes out. So luckily it doesn't cause any problem, but it will react under pressure. Okay, suppose நீங்க டைவிங் எல்லாம் போறீங்கன்னா, sea diving எல்லாம் போறீங்கன்னா 20 or 25 meters உள்ள போகும்போது, because of the water pressure, it will react with our blood and form nitrous oxide, which is laughing gas. Nitrous oxide. Okay, so இப்போ scuba diving எல்லாம், so what they use is they use something like helium. ப்ரீவியஸா வந்து அந்த நைட்ரஜன் அண்ட் ஆக்சிஜன் காம்போ இருக்கும் ஸ்டெபிலைஸ் பண்றதுக்கு. பிகாஸ் பியூர் ஆக்சிஜன் வந்து அந்த இடத்துல இட் இஸ் நாட் குட் ஃபார் அவர் பாடி. ஓகே, ஸோ என்ன ஆகும்னா, ஸோ வென் தே டைவ் டீப்பர் இட் ஃபார்ம்ஸ் நைட்ரஸ் ஆக்சைடு. ஸோ அது என்ன ஆகும்னா, இட் இஸ் லாஃபிங் கேஸ், ஸோ இட் கிவ்ஸ் அ கைண்ட் ஆஃப் ஹை. ஸோ தோஸ் ஹூ diving deeply, they will start removing the or do something funny which will be lethal. Now they are using stabilizers like helium, which will not react, obviously. Okay. And இதோட order வந்து ரொம்ப முக்கியம். So nitrogen highest, அப்புறம் next is oxygen, argon, carbon dioxide, and neon and helium, I think. So that is the order. So apart from that, we have something called ozone, which is another form of oxygen, O3, in the stratosphere. So troposphere, this is the thing. And in the ratio one, it is almost same for 88 kilometers. So till 88 kilometers, we classify the atmosphere as homosphere. Okay, ஏன்னா அந்த ratio 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, இது எல்லாமே சேம் இருக்கிறதுனால. Okay, so apart from that, so அதுக்கு மேல வந்து அது டிஃப்ரெண்டா மாற ஆரம்பிச்சிடும். Okay, so இது போக இன்டீரியரா வந்து பாத்தீங்க அப்படின்னா வந்து, so we classify as troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, ionosphere, exosphere அப்படின்ட்டு. Okay, so environment பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் we are generally concerned with the troposphere. So because troposphere is the living component, sorry, or the weather, it has the weather component. Okay, and we also have this greenhouse gases, which is responsible for keeping the earth warmer. Okay, by greenhouse effect. If there is no greenhouse effect, earth temperature will be somewhere around -18 degrees. Okay, so greenhouse effect or first it is and the keeping earth warmer, the alarm, let us leave it. Because of greenhouse effect, water is in liquid form. Okay, so any space exploration or earth like planets அப்படின்னா என்ன சொல்றாங்கன்னா, where water is in liquid form. Okay, so it should not be too away from the sun so that water is ice, or too closer to the sun so that liquid water is not possible. அந்த மாதிரி இல்லாம, okay, only when water is in liquid form, life can be sustainable, or life as we know it. So நம்மளோட life is based on carbon, or so far we have observed life only as a carbon form. Maybe life வேற ஃபார்ம்ல கூட இருக்கலாம், but we don't know. But according to us, so far it is only in carbon, in the observable universe. So observable, whatever we have observed. Okay, there are millions of earth like planets where life is possible, but only in earth life is there. Okay, so because it's a very high number of probability combination. Okay, so அந்த ஒரு 52 cards இருக்கிற ஒரு இதுலயே it has millions of possibilities on the card இதுல. So remember, we have hundreds of elements, and every element forms 50 to 60 compounds. Okay, molecules. So above there's billions and billions of possibilities. அந்த ஒரு the trillions of possibilities la here life has started. So that doesn't mean only here life is possible. It can be possible in other places also. But if life is there, there is a very less chance it is like us. நம்மள மாதிரியே அந்த 2 கை 2 கால் அந்த மாதிரி இருக்கணும் அவசியம் கிடையாது. Or it may or may not be carbon form. It can be hydrogen form. It can be oxygen form. என்ன ஃபார்ம் வேணாலும் இருக்கலாம். Okay. Or it can be something in infrared form. நமக்கு visible light. That can be visible only in infrared light. எப்படி வேணாலும் இருக்கலாம். Okay. So nitrogen, it is very important component, and it is something called limiting factor. Okay, so limiting factor அப்படின்னா என்னன்னா, if it is lesser in proportion, there will be reduction in productivity of the ecosystem. If it is more அப்படின்னா, so there will be a proportional increase up to a certain level. Okay, so for example, landல you can add 5 kg of fertilizer na, when you add 1 kg you will have 20% output. 5 kg la 100%, but 6 kg la still 100% tha. And 8 kg la it may start to reduce because of salinization. Okay, so there's the limiting factor or concept enna, when it is reduced, okay, it limits the productivity of the ecosystem. Adanaல limiting factor. So edella limiting factors na, all the abiotic components are limiting factors. Okay, and abiotic components further we classify it as energy and nutrients. Energy வந்து the only source of energy for earth is solar energy. Okay, nutrients, so obviously we have a lot of things. And when we deal with energy and nutrients, we use the term energy flow and nutrient cycle. So yeah, energy flow அப்படின்னா we keep on receiving energy continuously from the sun. If it does not flow now it is unidirectional. Okay, if it does not flow, இங்க வந்து energy accumulation will start building up. This will result in something called heat buildup. So obviously after a point of time, earth will be uninhabitable. So energy comes, it is stored for some time by the greenhouse gases, then it is released. Okay, and energy on the outer space escape ஆகுதுல one bigger role is played by water vapor. See, ground level it absorbs the heat, evaporates, goes up, and then anga condensation நடக்கும். When condensation occurs, heat is released. இங்க observe ஆன heat. So அந்த release ஆன heat அப்படியே escape ஆகும். Okay, and the energy trap பண்றதுல carbon dioxide plays a very role, or any greenhouse gas. ஆமாங்க. அதாங்க ஹீட் பட்ஜெட்ல சஸ்டெயின் பண்றதுக்கு எர்த்ல கொஞ்ச நேரம் பிடிச்சி வச்சிருக்குல்ல, அதுக்கு யூ ஹேவ் கிரீன் ஹவுஸ் கேஸ். பட் பிடிச்சி வச்ச ஹீட் எப்படி வெளியே போகும்? அந்த ஹீட் இஸ் அப்சர்வ் பை வாட்டர். ஓகே, ஸோ வென் இட் அப்சர்வ்ஸ் த ஹீட் இட் எவாபரேட்ஸ். இப்போ மேலே போகும், அந்த ஹீட் ரிலீஸ் பண்ணும். ஓகேங்களா? ஸோ இந்த கிரீன் ஹவுஸ் கேஸ் எல்லாம் தே வில் அப்சர்வ் விச் பார்ட் ஆஃப் சோலார் ரேடியேஷனா இன்ஃப்ராரெட் பார்ட் ஆஃப், குறிப்பா தெர்மல் இன்ஃப்ராரெட் பார்ட். Okay, so on the energy spectrum we have a very broad spectrum starting from X-rays, gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet, visible, infrared, microwaves, radio waves. And the high energy radiation of gamma rays and X-rays is stopped in the ionosphere. Next comes the UV rays, which is stopped in the next layer of stratosphere by ozone. Next, visible light is mostly scattered and observed in the atmosphere. Okay, அதுக்கப்புறம் again you have to shift. So most of the visible light is gone. அடுத்து என்ன வருது? Infrared. That infrared is observed by the greenhouse gases. Okay, so on the infrared, to be specific, thermal infrared spectrum. Okay, so that is what is responsible for the greenhouse effect. And nitrogen, like he said, it is a limiting factor. It is required for the plants, because nitrogen is a very important source of protein. Protein is a very important source of our muscles. Okay, and nitrogen it cannot be directly taken by plants. Okay, so we have something called, we need to do something called nitrogen fixation. Only fixed nitrogen can be taken by plants. And the fixation அப்படிங்கிறது என்னன்னா turning nitrogen into oxides of nitrogen or ammonia. Okay, oxides of nitrogen or hydrogen compounds of nitrogen, which is ammonia. That is done by two things in nature. One வந்து lightning. Okay, just a minute. So that is done by lightning. So lightning, and it's obviously high temperature. So when it comes, nitrogen, atmospheric oxygen reacts to form nitrous oxides of nitrogen. Okay, so NO2, NO3, N2O, NO adellame. Second is done by the bacteria or microorganisms living in the soil or the roots of plants. So soil irundhuchna they are called free living microorganisms or free living bacteria. If it is found in the roots of plants, they are called symbiotic bacteria. Symbiotic na they have a mutual beneficial relationships. So bacteria will have support from the roots to sustain, So the roots will provide them with water. So bacteria will fix the nitrogen for the roots, which will be helpful in their growth. It can also be done by fungi also. So bacteria and fungi. So both. Okay. So the process is called nitrogen fixation. Okay. So so what you have to study is, so there are a lot of bacteria, different categories of bacteria: symbiotic bacteria, free living bacteria, free living soil bacteria. Okay. So which of the type of bacteria and the name, you have to study. Okay. And carbon dioxide, we know it is a greenhouse gas, and as we breathe, so we give out carbon dioxide. So naturally it is 0.93%, but after the industrial revolution, we have started increasing the output of carbon dioxide. So because of which the greenhouse effect has changed. So there's a very high absorption of the thermal infrared spectrum, which is heating the atmosphere. And when the atmosphere is heated, so what we have is global warming. So climate change is a blanket term. It can signify both global warming and global cooling. Okay, but temperature increase achna, it is called as global warming. Okay, so these are layers of atmosphere: troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, and exosphere. And thermosphere la or part it is ionosphere. Okay, so troposphere, it is not, it does not have an even height. So it is 18 kilometer above the equator and 8 kilometer above the poles. Average height on the 13 kilometer. So why it is higher above the equator abdina? So because of two things. One, because of high heating of the atmosphere, so which increases the height of the atmosphere because of expansion of the gases. Second one, and the inversion, the ascending air column in the troposphere because of equatorial low pressure belt, where an ascending air column, so that stretches the atmosphere at that point. Okay, so Hadley cell, so drop pressure belt. Okay, and so most of your all the climatic activity happens in the troposphere: rainfall, cyclones, upwelling of the, and most of your carbon dioxide, water vapor, dust, it is confined to the troposphere. Okay, and above that you have the stratosphere, and troposphere or mukkiyamaanadhu normal lapse rate. So the temperature decreases as the height increases. So the rate of decrease of temperature is 1 degree Celsius per 165 meter or 6.5 degrees Celsius per kilometer. So as we go up, the temperature decreases. So which is very essential condition for rainfall. Okay. So as the atmosphere is heated from below, from the incoming solar radiation that hits the ground. Okay, there's a loss of energy. That energy is in the form of heat. So the atmosphere that is in contact with the surface of Earth will expand because of the heat, and as it expands, it becomes lighter. So when it becomes lighter, it rises, and when it rises, it takes the moisture along with it. And when it goes up, as we know, the temperature decreases as we go up. Okay, appo it will reach something called dew point. So dew point reach panichina, it is saturated and it will come down as precipitation. Okay, so on the normal lapse rate is very important. If there's no normal lapse rate, so it will keep on moving. Okay, so water on the to reach the dew point avasiyame kediyadu. Okay, so next comes your stratosphere. So obviously you have ozone, so which is very important. So anga in stratosphere the temperature increases with height. Next mesosphere, again the temperature decreases with height. Okay, so alternative po. Between the troposphere and stratosphere is something called tropopause. Anga the temperature is constant, so that is why it's called tropopause. So between stratosphere and mesosphere, there's something called stratopause. Anga your temperature is constant. Okay, so this line is nothing but it denotes temperature. So troposphere it comes this side, so it is reducing temperature. Tropopause constant. Stratosphere it increases with height. sorry, stratosphere increases with height, stratopause constant, mesosphere again decreases with height. Okay. So coming to weather and climate, so weather it is temporary phenomena that current என்ன இருக்கு. Okay, so weather report, news, weather bulletin அப்படின்லாம் சொல்றோம்ல. So இன்னைக்கு என்ன இருக்கு அப்படிங்க. So climate it is a long term phenomenon. Okay, so that is the difference. So that is why we use the term climate change. Okay, and there is something called insolation. Insolation amount of incoming solar radiation. So in the day where when we have the highest insolation at noon time. Okay, so earth at which point do we have the highest insolation? Equator illa equator konjam thalliya. So why we don't have, okay, we don't have highest insolation at the equator? So any reason? So logically equator la dhan highest ah irukanum. Ana 5 degree north la dhan highest insolation. ஏன்னா ஈக்குவட்டர்ல யூ ஹேவ் கிளவுட் கவர். ஓகே, ஹை ரெயின்ஃபால், அங்கே ஹை எவாபரேஷன் இருக்கிறதுனால, அண்ட் தட் இஸ் வேர் த ஏர் காலம் கோஸ் அப். ஸோ இட் டேக்ஸ் அ லாட் ஆஃப் மாய்ச்சர் ஃப்ரம் த கிரவுண்ட் லெவல் அண்ட் மூவ்ஸ் அப். ஸோ அதனால அங்கே கிளவுட் கவர் அதிகமாக இருக்கும். ஸோ இன்சுலேஷன் இஸ் த அமௌண்ட் ஆஃப் சன்லைட், சோலார் எனர்ஜி ரீச்சிங் த சர்ஃபேஸ். ஸோ சர்ஃபேஸில் கம்மியாக இருக்கும். ஈக்குவட்டரில் பை யுவர் லாஜிக் இட் இஸ் கரெக்ட். ஓகே, அட்மாஸ்பியரில் அந்த இடத்துல தான் அதிகமான சோலார் எனர்ஜி இருக்கும். But because of the cloud cover, the amount of solar radiation actually reaching the surface is lower at the equator. Adhe 5 degree north la, that is highest. So at 5 degree north you have the highest insolation. And when the insolation sunlight reaches the surface, it is also reflected. Okay, the reflected solar radiation we call as albedo. And edukku highest albedo? Snow. It reflects 70 to 90% of the incoming solar radiation. And maximum reflection is there means temperature will be low. Okay. And air pressure, so that we know, so the pressure exerted by the air or atmosphere. Okay, so generally the atmosphere pressure ground level 1013 millibar or 1.013 bars. So that other one நம்ம sometimes we use the term 1 atm. 1 atmosphere na 1013 millibars. Okay, and where you have highest air pressure na colder areas. Okay, because air shrinks because it is denser. Okay, and wind moves from area of high pressure to low pressure. So if colder area to warmer area da, there will be movement of wind. Okay, and generally naming convention, it is very easy. Wind வந்து எங்க இருந்து flow ஆகுது. If it flows from east to west, it is called easterlies. West to east na westerlies. So we receive rainfall, monsoonal rainfall from Madagascar, which is south of India and west of India. So from Madagascar wind blows to India. So south west monsoon. அதே ரிவர்ஸ் ஆகும்போது நார்த் ஈஸ்ட் monsoon. அவ்வளோ. Okay, so naming convention is very easy. Okay, so cyclones, in tropical cyclones, it is due to easterlies. Okay, so tropical cyclones are formed near Andaman. They move towards coast of Tamil Nadu. Andaman நமக்கு எங்க இருக்கு? East இருக்கு. So east to west it is moving. So அப்ப easterlies. Okay, very simple. So this is the diagram showing the planetary circulation. So in this part 30 degree north to 30 degree south, wind is blowing from east to west, so easterlies, or we use them trade winds. 30 to 60 west to east, so westerlies. Again 60 to 90 east to west, but it is in polar area adanaala polar easterlies. Okay, and pressure belt வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா low high alternative. So equatorial area equatorial low pressure belt, polar area polar high pressure belt. So நடுவுல இருக்குது subpolar subtropical. Okay, so low pressure na it is associated with ascending air column. Okay, when air flows upwards, it will carry moisture. Okay, so rainfall. Okay, so low pressure na ascending air column, you have rainfall, so wet conditions. Okay, high pressure na, so மேல போன air, it has to come down. It will not come down at the same place. It will travel in the upper atmosphere. So equatorial areas na மேல போற air, it will come down at subtropical high pressure belt. அப்போ கீழ இருந்து போகும்போது you have something moisture to carry, but from top moisture இருக்குமா, dry இருக்கும் air. So when it comes down, dry air will absorb the existing moisture in the ground. Okay, so it is associated with dry conditions. So high pressure belt na descending air column, dry conditions. Low pressure belt na ascending air column, wet conditions. இங்க இருக்கிற ஏர் மேல போயிருக்கு, அப்போ இந்த இடத்துல லோ ப்ரெஷர் கிரியேட் ஆகும். பட் இங்க ஒரு ப்ரெஷர் இருக்கு, apart from that air is coming from top to down, so it will increase the pressure, so high pressure. So descending air column, high pressure, dry condition. Ascending air column, low pressure, wet condition. Clear? So alternative high, low, high, sorry, low, high, low, high. Okay. So equator polar மட்டும் ஞாபகம் வச்சுங்க. So அதுக்கு முன்னாடி இருக்க subpolar, இது tropical area, so subtropical. So then you have this water. Okay, so water on heating, it evaporates. When it cools, it condenses. Okay, condensation vara, precipitation vara. So condensation and evaporation is change of phase. Precipitation on the when water from the upper layer reaches the ground, it is precipitation. If precipitation occurs greater than 0 degrees, it is rainfall. It is, if it occurs less than 0 degree, it is snowfall. So precipitation there are different forms, and condensation there are different forms. So condensation, like we saw before, it is nothing but change of state, water vapor to water. Ipo, if that condensation occurs on any object on the ground surface, it is called dew, the one that we have during November and December. Okay, but if the temperature is less than 0 degrees Celsius, it is in the form of ice crystals. That's frost and solo. Pani, urai pani. Okay, greater than 0 na dew, less than 0 frost. Okay, suppose it is not condensing on any object in the ground level, but on dust particles in the air. Suspended particles in the air la condenser, not only dust, some or existing pollutant mala, it is called fog. Dew and sorry, mist and fog. Lighter and the mist, thicker and the. Okay, if the fog reacts with the pollutant or smoke, it is called smog. Smoke plus fog on the smog. Okay, ipo dew and frost, condensation on any object on the surface of earth. Mist and fog, suspended particles. Suppose condensation occurs independently and the water droplets are still suspended in the air, அது cloud. சென்னையில ஒரு 2 days-ஆ வந்து ஒரு மழை பெய்யற மாதிரியே இருக்காது, ஆனா பெஞ்சிட்டே இருந்துச்சு, ரொம்ப மைன்யூட்டா. ஓகே, ஸோ அதுக்கு முந்தின ஸ்டேஜ் cloud. ஸோ தட் இஸ் பேசிக்கலி we were in a cloud. ஹில் ஸ்டேஷன்லாம் போகும்போது cloud நம்ம கிராஸ் பண்ணும், சில்லுன்னு அடிக்கும், ஆனா தொட்டு பார்த்தா ஈரமே இருக்காது. So that is basically cloud. So what happens, sometimes the water droplets, they start joining together. When they start joining together, the droplets become bigger. If the droplets become bigger, air cannot carry, appa they will fall down. That is rainfall, that is precipitation. Okay, so clouds like moisture irukum. Clouds are not water vapor, clouds are actually water. Okay, so we have 4 types of clouds: cirrus, cumulus, stratus, nimbus. So if the clouds become very thicker, we call it nimbus clouds. They are appearance க்கு தான் அது dark. Nimbus cloud, if you see from the top, it is still white. கீழ இருந்து பார்க்கும்போது it is so thick that it stops the sunlight. அதனால தான் டார்க்கா தெரியுது. If you are standing in some 50 or 60 story building, கீழ cloud உங்களை கிராஸ் பண்ணுதுன்னா மேல இருந்து பார்க்கும்போது nimbus cloud will still be white தான். Or when you are seeing from an airplane, மேல if you are above the cloud, it will still be white. Okay, so that is the difference. Okay. Then அது போக நிறைய காம்பினேஷன்ஸ் cumulus, cumulonimbus அதெல்லாமே. Okay, so tropical cyclones வந்து cumulus clouds, temperate cyclones cumulonimbus clouds, thunderstorms cumulonimbus clouds, அந்த மாதிரி you have different combinations. Now coming to precipitation, less than 0 snowfall, greater than 0 rainfall. Rainfall வந்து so 3 different categories we split. Orographic, அதுக்கப்புறம் convectional, and then cyclonic. Okay, so simple convectional வந்து we call it so it is one of the dominant rainfall in tropical rainforest. Okay, morning air will be heated air rises up. When rising up, it carries the moisture. Upper atmosphere, it forms clouds. 4 o'clock rainfall, evening rainfall, short but intense. Convectional rainfall. இதே orographic na oro அப்படினாவே mountain, graphy na study of mountain. Okay, orography na study of mountain, something like that, description of mountains. Orogeny na mountain formation. Okay, so basically on the orographic rainfall na, if the clouds are moving, any block stops it, starts moving up. When it moves up, what happens? It cools. When it cools, it reaches the dew point. When it reaches the dew point, rainfall comes. Okay, rainfall due to a block is orographic rainfall. Block, anything blocks its path, அப்ப மேல ரைஸ் ஆகும், ரைஸ் ஆகும்போது கூல் ஆகும், அவ்வளோ. That is orographic. Monsoon rainfall வந்து it is orographic rainfall for us. கம்மியா இருக்கும். So for example, tropical rainforest in இந்தியானோ இல்ல heavy rainfall areasனோ படிக்கும்போது அங்க இருக்கும் அமேசான் கன்வெக்ஷனல் ரெயின்ஃபால், அமேசான் பேசின், காங்கோ ஃபாரஸ்ட், மலேசியா, இந்தோனேஷியாலாம் கன்வெக்ஷனல் ரெயின்ஃபால். வெஸ்டர்ன் ஸ்லோப்ஸ் ஆஃப் வெஸ்டர்ன் காட்ஸ்னு கொடுத்துருப்பாங்க. ஸோ வை நாட் ஜஸ்ட் வெஸ்டர்ன் காட்ஸ்? ஏன்னா வெஸ்டர்ன் ஸ்லோப் ஆஃப் வெஸ்டர்ன் காட்ஸ்னா, ஸோ த மான்சூன் கிளவுட்ஸ் கம் ஃப்ரம் அரேபியன் சி. ஓகே, ஸோ வெஸ்டர்ன் காட்ஸ் பிளாக்ஸ் இட். பிளாக் பண்ணுறது எந்த ஸ்லோப்? வெஸ்டர்ன் ஸ்லோப். ஸோ அங்கே தான் இட் இஸ் ரைசிங். ஸோ ஆஸ் இட் ரைசஸ், இட் கிவ்ஸ் ஹெவி ரெயின்ஃபால் டு த வெஸ்டர்ன் ஸ்லோப்ஸ் ஆஃப் வெஸ்டர்ன் காட்ஸ். So that receives around more than 250 centimeters per year. But by the time it crosses, half of the rainfall is given. Cross பண்ணும்போது என்னன்னா கீழே இறங்கும், கீழே இறங்கும்போது என்ன ஆகும்? வார்ம் ஆகும். ஸோ ஒரு பர்டிகுலர் ஏரியாவுக்கு மட்டும் ஹீட் ரெயின்ஃபால் கொடுக்கும். ஸோ தட் இஸ் நாட் அ ப்ராப்ளம், மச் ப்ராப்ளம். பட் டோட்டலாக ரெயின்ஃபால் கொடுத்துச்சு ஒரு சைட்லேயே. இந்த பக்கம் ஏறி இறங்கும்போது இட் இஸ் டோட்டலி ட்ரைனா என்ன ஆகும்னா, ஸோ இருக்கிற மாய்ச்சரையும் அப்சர்வ் பண்ணும். Because air is totally dry. அப்போ என்ன ஆகும்னா இந்த பக்கம் it will be a dry area. So அது windward side, இது leeward side. Or this side is also called rain shadow region. You will not have rain, but only shadow of the rain. ஓகேங்களா? ஸோ அதனால தான் வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இந்தியா மேப் பாருங்க, அதில் வந்து இன்டீரியர் அந்த வெஸ்டர்ன் காட்ஸ்க்கு அடுத்த ஏரியா இட் இஸ் given in yellow. So sufficiently dry area, all those. அது கொஞ்சம் தூரம் தாண்டினதுக்கப்புறம் இட் இஸ் அ சஃபிஷியன்ட்லி ட்ரையர் ஏரியா. சம் ஆஃப் த மோஸ்ட் ட்ரை ஏரியாஸ், லீவ் அவுட் ராஜஸ்தான், தட் இஸ் அ டெசர்ட். சம் ஆஃப் த மோஸ்ட் ட்ரை ஏரியாஸ் இந்த மராத்வாடா ரீஜியன், இன்டீரியர் ஆஃப் வெஸ்டர்ன் சைடு ஆஃப் ஆந்திர பிரதேஷ், ஈஸ்டர்ன் சைடு ஆஃப் கர்நாடகா, அதெல்லாம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ரொம்ப ட்ரையர், வெரி லோ ரெயின்ஃபால் ஏரியாஸ். தானி ஃபாரஸ்ட், தெலுங்கானா சைடெல்லாம் தானி வெஜிடேஷன் அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. ஓகே, ஸோ தட் இஸ் பிகாஸ் தே ஆர் ஆன் த ரெயின் ஷேடோ ரீஜன். ஸோ தமிழ்நாடு ஏன் அப்படி இருக்கு அப்படின்னா, ஸோ நம்மளோட width of the peninsula is very small. So even though we do not receive rainfall from the western ghats, okay, so western ghats receive பண்ற எல்லா ரெயின்ஃபாலும் இந்த பக்கம் வந்து we have rivers coming from there, so which is sufficient. Second, Bay of Bengal இருந்து it is under the influence of easterlies. So easterlies, even though they don't bring much rainfall, they bring moisture. That moisture is sufficient for vegetation, sustain பண்ண vegetation. Apart from that, Ramanathapuram there is a desert condition. Okay, or particular area 88 to 80 to 88 square kilometers. So South India la only desert adha Ramanathapuram and the particular area. That is because இந்த பக்கம் கேரளாக்கு ரெயின்ஃபால் கொடுத்துட்டு அங்க அந்த இறங்குற இது வந்து டோட்டலா ட்ரையா இறங்கும் அந்த 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 இடத்துல மட்டும் டோட்டலா ட்ரையா இறங்கும் எல்லா இடத்துலயும் இறங்கும் அந்த பர்டிகுலர் அந்த 80 ஸ்கொயர் கிலோமீட்டர்ல இறங்குற இது மட்டும் டோட்டலா ட்ரையா இறங்கும் ஸோ என்ன மாய்ச்சர் தான் அப்சர்வ் பண்ணிக்கும் ஸோ தட் இஸ் ஒன்லி தட் பார்ட் ஓகேங்களா ஸோ தட் இஸ் த டிஃபரன்ஸ் okay so that is why so that is a perfect rain shadow region okay cyclonic rainfall on the tropical cyclones temperate cyclones ரெண்டு இருக்கு okay so tropical cyclones பார்த்தோம்னா இப்போ வாட்டரா பார்த்தோம் air okay so tropical cyclones வந்து பார்த்தோம் அப்படின்னா வந்து it is because of a high pressure area surrounding a low pressure area or low pressure area which it will be surrounded by high pressure area இப்போ ஏர் என்ன ஆகும் ஹை ப்ரெஷர்லேருந்து லோ ப்ரெஷரை ஃபில் பண்ண வரும் ஓகே தென் தேர் இஸ் சம்திங் கால் கொரியாலிஸ் ஃபோர்ஸ் வாட் திஸ் கொரியாலிஸ் ஃபோர்ஸ் வில் டூ இஸ் இட் வில் சேஞ்ச் த டைரக்ஷன் ஆஃப் விண்டு டிஃப்ளெக்ட் பண்ணி விடும் ஸோ அப்போ டிஃப்ளெக்ட் பண்ணும்போது வர ஏர் ஸ்ட்ரைட்டாக வராது ஸோ இட் வில் ஹாவ் அ ஸ்பைரலிங் மோஷன் ஸோ தட் ஸ்பைரல் வில் கீப் ஆன் ரொட்டேட்டிங் அண்ட் இஃப் த டெம்பரேச்சர் ஆஃப் த வாட்டர் பாடி இஸ் அரௌண்ட் 27 degrees Celsius that will give sufficient amount of evaporation and the evaporated air வந்து as it goes up it condenses and இங்க evaporate பண்றதுக்கு it absorbed heatல that heat will be released there that heat will sustain the cyclone so that is why once cyclone reaches the land it does not have water to evaporate பண்ண water இல்லைன்னா condense ஆகிறதுக்கும் water இல்லை அப்போ அந்த கண்டென்சேஷன் ஹீட்டும் வாய்ப்பு இல்லை ஸோ cyclone will dissipate so another land after landfall of cyclone once it reaches the land cyclone weakens next to water so water cycle we know evaporation condensation precipitation so basically what we saw in air la we were condensation வந்து it is opposite of evaporation என்ன change of phase water to water vapor condensation la same change of phase reverse water vapor to water அவ்வளவுதான் condensation அங்கதான் நடக்கணும் இல்ல நீங்க convection condensation confuse பண்ணீங்க okay so convection na so see heat transfer க்கு so there are three ways conduction convection radiation so நான் டைரக்டா அதை டச் பண்றேன் conduction AC ல இருந்து எனக்கு எப்படி வருது am I touching the AC directly ஒரு மீடியம் மூலமா மீடியம் இஸ் ஏர் so there is a heat transfer through a medium convectional cycle ல heat is transferred from lower part of the atmosphere to the upper part of the atmosphere எப்படி lower part of the atmosphere ல water vapor absorbs the heat or air absorbs the heat it goes up மேல போனதுக்கு அப்புறம் it loses the heat so transfer of heat through the medium of air convection so அந்த சைக்கிளா நடக்குதுன்னா it is called convectional cycle okay so earth oda crust க்கு கீழ so the movement of lithospheric plates it is based on convectional cycle ஏன்னா heat from the lower part of the asthenosphere is transferred to the upper part of the asthenosphere through the molten magma a medium அதான் convectional cycle ஓகேவா so water cycle வந்து evaporation condensation precipitation அவ்வளவுதான் so the importance of water cycle என்னன்னா so there are three basic importance okay ஒன்னு வந்து with respect to heat transfer so it is responsible for transferring of heat through the earth ground ல இருந்து மேல கொண்டு போறது okay so that is one thing second it is responsible for filtering of water evaporation வந்து filters water because when evaporation occurs only water evaporates it leaves all the minerals down. Okay, அது ஒன்று. Third வந்து it refills the fresh water. So from river we get fresh water, but river drains into the sea. Okay, or lake is evaporated. Lake drain ஆயிட்டே வரும். அது எப்படி ஃபில் பண்றது? திரும்ப due to rainfall. Rainfall is a part of water cycle. So replenishing of freshwater resources, purification of water, global heat transfer. So these three are the very important factors. Okay. அது போக additional factor is transportation of minerals. Okay. So minerals, they are basically transported from land to the sea. Sea is salty because rivers bring a lot of salt from the land. அதனால தான் இப்ப salt இருக்கு. But the rivers, the water is evaporated, salt stays there. Filtration. Heat transfer. It is responsible for maintaining the heat of the globe. Okay. Heat budget limit adha. Okay, so cold water current and warm water current, they transfer the chillness from there to equator areas. Equator and the hot warm water currents, they flow towards the polar areas. இதெல்லாமே. Okay. அப்புறம் transportation of minerals across the globe. ஃபைனலா வந்து முன்னால சேஞ்சிங் எர்த்னு பார்த்தோம்ல, fluvial erosion, exogenic forcesல fluvial erosion, shaping of landforms on the surface of earth. Okay, நம்ம fluvial erosion மட்டும் இல்ல. So if you see, all erosions are different cases of water. Water அதிகமா இருந்துச்சுன்னா you have a condition. Water கம்மியா இருந்துச்சுன்னா water based erosion கம்மியா இருக்கும், but pin based erosion அதிகமா இருக்கும். Aeolian erosion னு சொல்லுவோம். Okay, so less water, you have wind erosion. Now coming to water, more water இருக்கு. Okay, and if the water is in a coastal area, you have coastal erosion or wave erosion. If the water is less than 0 degrees Celsius, glacial erosion. அதே வந்து mountain to plains, mountainல glacier, இங்க coast, அதுக்கு நடுவுல rivers, fluvial erosion. Okay, இது லேண்டுக்கு மேல பார்த்தோம். If the erosion happens below the ground level, karst topography. But karst topography ஒன்னு என்னன்னா, the rocks must be soluble. Limestone or sedimentary rocks, soluble இருக்கும், loose, very loose rocks. Okay, so basically எல்லா exogenic forces are just different cases of presence or absence of water. Presence of water na where it is present or what temperature it is present. Water தான். Okay, that is the thing. Clear? So this is just water cycle. So these are the very 5 important things. So 3 are very important. அது போக I have told you 2 additional things. So transportation of minerals and shaping of earth. Okay, so then we have 5 great oceans, so which cover 73% of earth's surface but contain 97% of water. We use it as marine water. Okay, so fresh water na less than 5 parts per thousand, ppt. Okay, salt content வந்து less than 5 ppt இருந்துச்சுன்னா we use the term fresh water. If it is greater than 5 but less than 30 na we use the term brackish water. Greater than 30 இருந்துச்சுன்னா marine water or salt water ecosystem. So 5 to 30 is brackish, greater than 30 na salt. Generally வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா the average salinity of oceans and seas, so those are average salinity of oceans and seas வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, so those are 35 parts per thousand. Okay, So apart from that, we have something called moving water ecosystem, which is called lotic, rivers, streams, static water ecosystem, which is lentic ecosystem. So why is NCERT not loading? Internet use ஆகலனா இதுவும் போகாது. ஓகே. கவின் எது குளோபல் வார்மிங்னு சொல்லியிருக்கீங்க? இல்ல 7:34 இப்பதான் ஒரு 4 minutes முன்னால சொல்லியிருக்காரு சம்திங். Okay, am I audible? Are you receiving? Because இங்க நெட் இல்ல. உங்களுக்கு ஜூம் லிங்க் ஏதாவது இருக்கா? சும்மா செக் பண்ணி பாருங்களேன். Oh yes. Okay, fine. Because okay, NCERT is not loading. So some problem maybe with NCERT website. Okay, if you have that, so take chapter 6 and 7. So chapter 6 so it's about I think the tropical and subtropical areas. Okay, so we'll be studying tropical and temperate areas. So tropical areas la you have something called maybe some problem with NCERT. Okay, I think some problem with the இல்ல பரவாயில்ல 10 நிமிஷம் தான் இருக்கு. Okay. So just focus this on ஒரு நிமிஷம். நெட்டு எடுக்க மாட்டேங்குது. சரி பரவாயில்ல விடுங்க, நான் இதை வச்சு கொஞ்ச நேரம் தான். சரி பரவாயில்ல, நான் பார்த்துக்கிறேன். Okay. So just focus on this picture. Okay. So இந்த என்னங்க ஆரஞ்சா? Okay, ஆரஞ்சு டோன்ல இருக்கிறது. So that is your tropical areas. அப்படி டோட்டல் சும்மா. ஓகே, இல்லை அது கிளாரிட்டி போய் மிஸ் ஆயிருமேன்னு பார்த்தேன். Okay, so this orange area is your tropical area. Okay, so on one side, especially on the western margins of tropical areas, you have deserts. Okay, அதே on the eastern margin you have forest. Okay, so இப்போ nature is not like a human boundary. So in the Pakistan, India, and the Pakistan, in the Pakistan, India, and the Bangladesh. Okay. So there's always a gradual change. Okay. So between forest and desert, you have something called grasslands, which is an intermediate station. In environment, we use the term ecotone. Ecotone abdina, it is the boundary of two vegetation, which is generally the transition vegetation. Okay. So tropical area la you have something called rainforest and monsoon forest. So monsoon forest is deciduous forest. Okay. So where you have high temperature and high rainfall, the productivity is very high. Okay. So you have rainforest. So yeah, rainforest abdin solrangana, there you have convectional rainfall. So because of the rainfall, you have the forest, and they are mostly evergreen forest. Okay. And the evening rain, 4 o'clock rain, evening rainfall அப்படின்லாம் சொல்லுவாங்க. ஸோ எந்தெந்த ஏரியாலலாம் அது இருக்கும் அப்படின்னா, காங்கோ பேசின் இன் ஆஃப்ரிக்கா, அமேசான் பேசின், Indonesia, Malaysia. So mostly in and around equator, 5 degree north to 5 degrees south. Okay. And further when you move, as the rainfall decreases, okay, the tropical rainforest region la you don't have it something called dry season. Throughout the year rainfall இருக்கும். But monsoon forest la you have something called dry season. It is not distributed throughout the year. Or particular dry season, particular wet season. So during the dry season, to conserve water, what the trees will do is they will shed their leaves. Okay, water conserve பண்றதுக்காக இலைய உதிர்க்கும், இலை உதிர் காடுகள். Okay, or deciduous forest. Then as you move further this side, further rainfall is reducing. இப்போ you have sufficient water to sustain vegetation. Ana it is not sufficient to sustain trees. That's where you have grasslands. So grasslands na definition is the vast expanse of grasses. Okay. பறந்து விரிஞ்ச புல்வெளி with scattered trees. Trees இல்லன்னு கிடையாது, கம்மியா இருக்கும். Okay. So vast expanse of grasses with scattered trees na grasslands. Okay. So and the grassland vandu, if it is in tropical area, it is called savanna. Savanna is a term for grasslands in Africa, tropical areas. Okay. So in the savanna தான் வந்து நம்ம எல்லாருமே originate ஆன இடம். So we all belong to Homo sapiens. So Homo sapiens originated in Africa. Africa la savannas. Olduvai region ஒரு இடம் இருக்கு, OLDUVA. Okay. And the Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. So that is where Homo sapiens originated and spread throughout the world. அங்க ஒரிஜினேட் ஆனதுனால தான், so most of our biology is suited to withstanding heat. See, we can withstand heat. ஹீட்டோட ரேஞ்சு நம்மளால நல்லா withstand. கோல்டு வந்து எல்லாருனாலையும் பண்ண முடியாது. அது ஏன் அப்படின்னா, so because of that, the place where the current we all formed. ஓகேங்களா? So that is the reason. Then further as you move west, you have desert. Okay, it is not sufficient to sustain complete vegetation, but on the desert conditions the vegetation. The vegetation that is in desert are xerophytes, XERO. Xerophytes na vegetation that can withstand drought, DROUGHT. Okay, Panjam. As you go up, you have the middle latitudes or temperate areas or extratropical areas. Okay, so here again, one side you have forest, grasslands, desert. Okay, and whenever we think of desert, we should not restrict ourselves to hot deserts. Thar desert, Sahara desert, Arabian desert. So there are a lot of cold deserts also. Okay, so India la where is cold desert? Any idea? India la cold desert irka. Gobi desert is a cold desert found in Mongolia. Siberia, that is northern Russia. India la is there cold desert. Ladakh, கேள்விப்பட்டிருக்கீங்களா? Ladakh is nothing but cold desert. Ladakh cold desert, Tibetan plateau. It is an extension of Tibetan plateau. Okay, அதாவது இந்தியாவோட ஒரு part which actually does not belong to the Indian subcontinent. geological. I'm not talking about political. Okay, that is a part of Eurasian plate. Ladakh, northern Kashmir எல்லாம். So Pirpanjalக்கு மேல இருக்கிறதுலாம். Pirpanjal, they also belong to Indo-Australian, Eurasian plate. Okay, and Himalayas கீழ இருக்கிறதெல்லாம் they belong to Indo-Australian plate. Okay, so geologically those are a part of Europe. Okay, so that is why it is easier to access those places from Pakistan and China. It is very hard to access from India. ஏன்னா அங்க கிராஜுவலா ஏறும். But here it is like sudden rise. Okay, so desert na, and animals or plants there, they have their own set of adaptation. Hot deserts na, so plants have longer roots, waxy leaves, thorns, adellame. Cold desert na, so if it is very cold, it's mostly grasses there. Okay, Ladakh lalam poningana, they can only grow barley. That too at one particular season. 8 months when it is totally shut down, nothing grows. Okay, so and ஒரே ஒரு grass மட்டும் இருக்கும், that too it will not grow, அந்த grass dry ஆயிரும். yak அப்படின்னு ஒன்று இருக்கும், sheep yak இருக்கும், that will eat that grass. People will consume the yak and sheep. Okay, so because we cannot consume that grass, அது ஃப்ரெஷ்ஷா இருக்கும்போது அவ்வளோ ட்ரையா இருக்கும். ஓகேங்களா, ஈட்டிங் தட் கிராஸ் இஸ் இம்பாசிபிள். ஓகே, அது க்ரீனாக இருக்கும்போது யூ வில் ஃபீல் ஹவு ரஃப் இட் இஸ். ஸோ அங்கே பீப்புளோட தேர் அடாப்டிவ் மெக்கானிசம் இஸ் yak meat and barley that was grown during summer. Okay, winterல it is very hard to survive. Okay, நம்மலாம் யோசிப்போம் எதுக்கு இங்கே வந்து தங்கிட்டு அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி. Okay, so but people are accustomed to living there. Okay, they have a different biology. Okay, their resilience to environment is different. Okay, நம்ம அங்க போனோம்னா, so we have this thing called acclimatization, temporary adaptation to the climate. Okay, so that will take like 2 to 3 days because on the altitude la oxygen will be very lean, so our body to get used to it. And hot desert la animals, they have the ability to store water and they don't sweat. And how they survive is, most of the animals are nocturnal, they come out during the night. Okay, and there is one rat, African Nile rat, West African Nile rat நினைக்கிறேன். Okay, so that rat will never urinate in its lifetime. Okay, அது என்ன சாப்பிடுதோ அதில் இருக்கிற வாட்டர் சோர்ஸ் தான். Okay, so basically its kidney வந்து என்ன பண்ணும்னா, so it will, when it purifies, it will not excrete water. Water திரும்ப blood clean பண்ணி blood stream குள்ள அனுப்பிச்சிடும். Those are some of the adaptive mechanisms. Okay, and tropical rainforest la, so most of the animals, they will be arboreal because trees are very close. Big bodied animals survive agadu. And arboreal na, so those that are living on top of trees, you have very high bird diversity. And as you go from bottom to up, the diversity decreases. So you have high diversity of the tropics. As you go up, diversity decreases. In between, you have something called taiga or coniferous forest. Okay, these are also evergreen. Okay, but diversity kammiya irukum. Suppose you take this room, if it is a tropical rainforest, you will have 20 to 30 species of trees. But coniferous vegetation na, ஒரு tree, ஒரு shrub, ஒரு grass, that's all. Fish இருக்கும், அந்த vegetation. So obviously உங்களுக்கு வந்து இந்த vegetation கம்மியாச்சுன்னா, so when your the diversity of vegetation reduces, obviously the animal diversity follow up இருக்கிற எல்லாமே it will reduce. Okay, so that's it. So that's in your NCERT. Last 6th and 7th வந்து life in tropics, life in deserts அப்படின்ட்டு 2 chapter. So which is about natural vegetation. So anyway, next I think there's another class. Okay, so adula we'll discuss in detail about that. Okay, so if you have any doubts, you can ask, or else we can wind up. Online students also, you have any doubts, you can ask. Okay, thank you.